What's up, everyone? Tiger Stacker here. I am honored to present to you a question from a newbie to our community who presents a very interesting question. And I want to show you what I feel is the right answer. So let me present to you what video it is associated with. My interview with Salivate Metals. And let me show you the question that this viewer brings to the table. I offered the viewer a chance to come up for a live stream, and I've never heard back. But I do want to show you this very good question. The question is from Great Furlone 345. Good discussion. New to stacking, here's one question that I assume has been beaten to oblivion. Just have not heard it yet. When the dollar fails and coin shops that I have been doing business with are no longer in business, where do I sell or trade? I do understand the possibilities of trading an SHTF, but ... I answered, it is a very good question. Would you be willing to be part of a live stream for discussion and education on this matter? Please contact me at my email address, and I gave the email address. As I've said, Great Furlone 345 has not replied. This is what I believe will happen, and the order I believe it might happen in. I'm not the only one who shares this opinion, and other people have different opinions of how things will unfold. Stage one, people will panic. People behind the scenes, those in power, those who have money, always seem to profit in times of crisis, and I believe often encourage crisis, such as happened in 1907 when there was a crisis about paper currency, and the people asked the government to take over, which then led into the Federal Reserve and what happened after that, for which I ask you to go to this video here, Gone Again. 4,800 currencies over a 6,000-year period have crashed, and I only compared two in here, our currency against the ancient Roman Empire. So please go to that video for further explanation of how things do tend to fall apart. But our time is a little different. Our time involves the ability of internet programmable money, such as central bank digital currency, CBDCs, where in Rome it was just pure physical debasement. In our case, we might be dealing with digital debasement. And you also have to keep in mind two major laws of currency over time. Gresham's law, which basically says good money pushes out bad money, and Tyr's law, which says good money pushes out bad money. When bad money is so bad, no one trusts it anymore. At the time that SHTF hit, people will be clinging to their old ways, as people always do. We are creatures of habit. We don't like change, and we don't want to change anything unless we have to. People will cling to the current currency. I think it will be mainly paper at this time, but if it takes longer, they might cling to CBDCs, or if we're in the transition between paper/cloth money and CBDCs, if we're in that transition. No one will accept precious metals such as gold and silver. So at this stage, hopefully by this time, you've stacked up on gold and silver, but you should also stack up on food, water, shelter, energy, protection, indicating lead as another precious metal. And I think you know what I mean by that. Gold should be used for long-term wealth preservation and purchasing of big items, such as paying off your house under SHTF, because I believe that the government will be trying to take people's houses, and silver for smaller purchases, lead for protection, and supplies will be used, grocery stores, and might not be replenished. I think that this time frame will take about 6 to 18 months, in my opinion. Stage two, people will recognize cash and CBCs are no good. They will recognize they don't have any other form of medium of exchange. And the reason for this, I believe, is because our government and others have been so effective at getting people to not recognize gold and silver, precious metals, as currency. And this has been going on for some time, for which I want to point out to you a quote from Montague Norman, the first Baron Norman, who was an English banker best known as his role as governor of the Bank of England between 1920 and 1944. This is a quote from Montague Norman, 1924, when he gave a lecture to the United States Bankers Association, New York City, quote, "Capital must protect itself in every way possible, both in combination and legislation. Debts must be collected, mortgages foreclosed as rapidly as possible. When through the process of law, the common people lose their homes, they will become more docile and more easily governed through the strong arm of government applied by a central power of wealth under leading financiers. These truths are well known among our principal men, who are now engaged in forming an imperialism to govern the world. By dividing the voter through the political party system, we can get them to expand their energies in fighting for questions of no importance. It is thus by discrete action we can secure ourselves that which has been so well planned and so successfully accomplished. And we are already experiencing that. Look at what's going on with our election system in 2024 and before. This is how governments succeed and fail. Almost all wars are involved with some sort of financial collapse. Many of the countries currently are having financial problems. We are facing the possibility of World War III. This is nothing new. This has always been the case. And for the last number of decades, we fight over issues that do not add stability to our country. We took over as world reserve currency from Great Britain because at that time we were a powerhouse. We were producing goods and services in the world market. We were building our economy. We had an economy that was strong coming out of the 1800s into the 1900s. Look at what has happened. We gave up a lot of our power as a builder, producer, and trader in the world market. Look at the NAFTA agreement and how it weakened us. Look at the fighting over things that do not mean anything to the strength of our nation. We argue over baby removal. I use that phrase because I'm afraid of what YouTube will do to the channel if I use the A word. We argue over LGBTQ. We argue over what they're teaching our children in public school systems, most of which I am against. And all this is doing is dividing our country. We need to get to a point where we are, again, a producer, a leader amongst world trade. And look at the wisdom of other things that have been said. Crime is contagious. If the government becomes a lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself. It invites anarchy. This is not what's happening because our government has broken the law. And one of the most important ones is about the great illegal immigration from our southern border. A democracy must remain in the home and all matters which affect the nature of their institutions. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voters. Never invite idiots into my house. Liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people who have a right and a desire to know. If we do not want to know, which happened in ancient Rome, keep them entertained. That's happening here amongst the citizens of this country. Keep them entertained so they don't pay attention, and the people in power can grow their power. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes and exhausts and murders itself. That doesn't necessarily have to be true. In contrast, totalitarianism is a democracy can face and live with the truth about itself. The great strength of totalitarianism state is that it forces those who fear it to imitate it. My friends, these are the things that we face and obviously have been reemerging throughout history. This is the nature of human beings, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to pass. Those who came before us fought against it to create the great experiment that is America. Our republic has lasted 200 years, and if we love it enough, we can protect it. Freedom is never free, and for those who want this bad enough, we might have to pay the ultimate price, like those have come before us, and it might not be strictly limited to the police and the military. So you can see that decades have been spent trying to recondition the people of this nation. And when this happens, supply lines will go down even further and may not be operational at all. People will fight and kill for food and supplies. Worse yet, if it's adults trying to feed their starving children. At this time, lead and steel will become the most precious metal for protection. Preppers and farmers will be sought out and attacked. However, the preppers and farmers unattacked will be better off than the hunters and fishers because the wildlife will dwindle and may even become extinct. The rich will, at this time, I think, get richer. The powerful will become more powerful. And I think that this will, again, last somewhere between another 6 to 18 months. Stage 3, the people will get tired of killing each other, and there will be a dwindling of lead and steel. Barter will become more popular, but it will not last long. Why? It's very hard to find someone who will barter directly with you because not everybody needs what the other person has. That's why you have currency or a medium of exchange, so that we have a common denominator in which to go ahead and use to exchange goods and services. And with that medium of exchange that everybody wants, it can be used so that everybody can get what they need or want. And at this time, we will enter into stage 4, which I believe will be the recognition of gold and silver as money. Keep in mind the quote from Norm Franz: "Gold is the money of kings, silver is the money of gentlemen, barter is the money of peasants, but debt is the money of slaves." And our country lives in debt through a Ponzi system through the Federal Reserve. And they want us to stay in debt. My friends, slavery exists and it's thriving well. And it always has existed. Not based upon skin color, but based upon what's in your pocket or your bank account or your safe. If you have enough to live off of, and that is all individualized, you have the ability to be a free man. And you don't have to always have to rely only on precious metals. Look at the Amish people. They have lived this way for centuries. No chemicals, no gasoline, no electricity, and yet our government has started attacking them to try to control them. A group of individuals that do not want to be involved with our way of life. They want to maintain theirs, and they harm no one. And all they want to do is continue to live the life that they were brought up in and they want to continue with. It's at this time that I think that precious metals will start to become more and more recognized. In the meantime, the people in power will try to tell you precious metals is a relic. You don't need it. Go to Bitcoin. Go to CBDCs, which I believe will fail. And you need a computer, electricity. And when you lose those things, you don't have that currency anymore. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And people will start to realize at this stage, precious metals is a form of currency. If it wasn't, why are the central banks and governments hoarding gold and now, as I understand it, starting to hoard silver? And they don't want the people to have it. Once again, gold is the money of kings, silver the money of gentlemen, barter the money of peasants, and debt the money of slaves. That's where they want the people, in the 4th category. So now that I've covered all that, let me get back to the answer from Great Furlong 345. I believe that money in the form of fiat dollars, physical or digital, will fail, and the time frames will happen. Maybe not in my prediction, but they will happen, and I believe in that order. It is very possible coin shops might not be in business anymore. It depends on how our government and how the markets will go. I can't foresee that. But you might not need the coin shops. You might have to rely on your own ability to barter and trade. Where do you sell in your trade? I would suggest farmers markets, getting to know them, getting to know your farmers, getting to know the people that have things that you want. Bartering will preserve your precious metals. Let's say you have 6 chickens, which will support you and your wife, and the person doesn't have any eggs and wants them, and you have extra. You can preserve your precious metals and barter. You might be willing to trade services for other goods and services. As a physician, I can use my knowledge to provide help to people that might not get it at that time. Other trades such as carpentry, plumbing, electricity, mechanics will be things people want a lot of. And you might be able to still barter that because that might become a form of currency. But you will be able to use your silver and your gold at that time when you have no ability to trade anything further. There might not be a standardized market as it exists right now. It might be an issue of who's the better negotiator. What is your local area going to put the value to goods, services, silver, gold, other commodities? But you will have that ability to trade. And depending on the people in the community, communities that have trouble getting along will fail, and so will the people there. The communities that realize that they need each other will survive. They will stick together. They will probably start producing community gardens, and everybody that contributes will be entitled to the produce thereof. So those are my ideas of what might happen. Great Furlong 345. Those of you watching this video, what are your ideas? What do you think will happen? Leave comments below. See you all in the next one. Tiger Stacker out.